Hey Fairfield, welcome to the last exciting episode of Season 1, the 30th episode. We've made it to 30, oh my god, of Fairfield 2.0. I'm going to talk a little bit about that at the end of the show, so hang in there. We're going to have, as I introduce everybody, I'll fill you in on what's going on later. We have David Seagull with us today, a wonderful musician, local musician, and he's going to be playing a little concert at the end, a few songs for us. So definitely stick around for him. But also, when his concert is over, stick around a little bit longer because I have a few choice words to say to end the season. And also, we have with us today Avi Pogel, and we have Galen Hawthorne with us, another son of Fairfield. You might say. So this is a great show for me because I've been trying to get David here for a long time. We got him here. We got you finally.
Okay.
And Avi, we've been trying to get you here for a while. All of you, and you too.
This is a TV show?
This is a TV show. Yeah.
Oh, that explains the camera.
Oh, yeah.
I thought there was a buffet. There was a buffet.
Oh, by the way. So let's start. David, let's start with you.
Okay.
David, what have you been up to lately as far as creatively?
Well, I've been working with an LA songwriter who's lives in town, Robert Reeder, and he actually had some hits in the 80s, and so I actually rearranged one of his like this #2 R&B hit, and some other stuff, and we just have a great chemistry, and I've been playing some Irish music, and the tuning for that works very well with his stuff, and so that's been great. And also Josie Overmeyer, another very talented singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
I've been working with her, so those have been that's lately kind of what I've been up to.
You were the missing element. We had Josie and we had Rob here.
Oh, yeah, right.
Right. we should have
heard
you here for that
that's
show.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, we should have had you, but we got you. See, we got you by the end of the season, so that's cool.
right.
David, what are you doing as far as performance-wise? By the time the show airs, of course, probably what we're talking about will all be no, I'll be dead. But your show, the things that we were talking about before.
People have been bugging me to do shows. I've been involved with some other stuff, so I haven't been focused so much on performing live. But I'm looks like I'm going to be doing a show either late September, early October, which is I hope it doesn't sound too arrogant, but it was a show where other people sing. I guess it's a tribute show. You said
it's a tribute show.
Tribute show, but I'm still alive. I guess. No, it'll be like other people sing.
It's better to sing it to you.
Songs.
Sing your songs. It's better to sing you while you're alive than when you're gone, right?
Well, there's Tony Stanger is a singer-songwriter guy and a great artist who lives in town, and he has been a fan of my music for many, many years, back in the 80s. And he recorded me and has just been constantly nagging me and telling me, you're so great, you should do more. And anyway, he's been performing my songs for a long time. And so I thought, well, and he's been bugging me to do a show with him. So I was thinking, maybe include him and then, some of these other people I've been working with and, have them do a couple of my songs. Joey Del Rey is somebody else who has told me that he likes my music and he studied some of my songs, which it's a huge compliment.
He studied them, he says?
He said he studied this. Yeah,
Joey.
he's he's really trying to figure out what I'm doing. Anyway, which is a huge compliment. And but I thought it'd be nice to put these people together and up on stage and just have them do my songs. I mean, I like performing them, and I like the lyrics, I like the content, and I think it'd be interesting to see what other people could do with them.
Nice.
So
someone in this
room. It's a little bit of a stretch for me, actually. I'm not sure how it's going to. I think it'll feel good. I'm sure it'll feel a little strange,
It'll feel cool. Yeah. And as your friend said, you are very talented, and you should be playing out all the time.
Well,
so there.
Okay.
What songs? What songs? I don't say what songs you're going to play later, but what songs are some of the ones that keep popping up as far as your favorites?
Well,
to you.
I mean, to me, I wrote a song recently. I don't know if I brought. There was a song I recently wrote called "Shame," which it sort of had lyrics from many years ago, and from today. I don't think I brought it with me, but I have to have the lyric sheets because I haven't played it in a little while. But I mean, I really like that, and it's on my website, David Seagull, SEAGULL.com, and it's all free there. Anyway, and I used bass and drums, and I used synthesized keyboards and stuff. And I just really like the way that came out.
Yeah.
Certain chord forms I like, or I think the songs they tend to, I'll like some songs a little bit more when I first write them or I conceive them. Later they age a little. Some keep their shape. Some I'm not. There's a song "Wreck" that I'll do later probably, that Joey's always and Sharon Bousquet always tell me that they really like that song and that's fun to play. And most of my songs I think are pretty sad, and somebody called it down tempo.
Slice of life.
Yeah, so I tend to write down tempo, sad stuff, and when you're in the mood for it, I think it could be very nice. It's not, it's not like let's drive and go party. You have to pull off the side of the road and cry or something.
I could do that. I'd love to. By the way, I'm volunteering to. I volunteered off camera. I'll volunteer on camera. Okay. I'd love to do one of your songs that night.
Thank you.
Please, I want to pay tribute to David Siegel. And what is happening as far as, I know there was a trip that you took to California to do like a little promotion a while back.
Yeah. So I went to ASCAP, this ASCAP convention, which is basically about a bunch of wannabe, like thousands of wannabe musicians mingling with a few established musicians, clamoring for their attention and recognition. So I joined that minion, and actually I met one of my idols. I met Rufus Wainwright at the, and he performed like right in front of me, basically in this small room, and also a guy.
Which Judy Garland song did he sing?
Did he sing "Over the Rainbow"? I wonder if he did.
I think he probably did. He did that project.
I've seen him. Yeah, I've seen him. He is so talented, and and then I tried to get some music to him, and he basically blew me off. Which was, but I also saw what's his name? The guy that wrote for the Smile album.
Van Dyke Parks?
Van Dyke Parks. And that guy just brought me to tears to see. He played, Orange Crate Art. I don't know if you know that song.
Yes, I do.
He played that, like 10 feet in front of me on the piano and sang, and it was just mind-blowingly great.
And Van Dyke is a performance artist also, so he must have been wild. In other words, he's an artist. He's a visual artist. He's also a recording artist, and he does performance art. So it's like, I would love to see something where it combines all three. We got to interview him over at Solar Powered Crew FM, which is at 100.1 on your FM dial.
I have to check that out.
Yeah, he was great. He was really great. And it was a wild interview, and he had to have been a lot of fun.
He was fantastic. He made me cry when I met him. I was so overwhelmed with, meeting these, idols. It was like being in the Magic Kingdom or something. And then, Don Was was there.
Nice.
And
my favorite stuff to this day by him is not only his Was Not Was,
right.
or Was Not
Both
Was.
those guys were there.
Oh, they were?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
What's his name? Joni Mitchell's ex-husband. Anyway. Well, the other was.
Joni Mitchell's ex-husband.
It'd be a good album.
It's going to come to me by the end of the show. I resist that knowledge because I'll tell you why later. But there's also, Don did.
Oh, yeah.
Don has done I told you that story. Don has produced everybody virtually now. Really great records with them. But my favorite, I think, by him was the Bonnie Raitt stuff.
Bonnie Raitt, yeah. I had an experience.
I Can't Make You Love Me. What a great record.
Yeah, I mean, he said that she was, in tears at the end of that recording, and just sobbing. And I find an interesting thing when I'm in LA, the music I hear on the radio sounds different to me. I am affected differently. I feel like the vibe out there is so steeped in that it just, I'm like, so I had kind of a mystical experience out there. I'd love to go back.
You should go back?
I should go back, yeah.
You should go back. My recommendation is go back there, not for an ASCAP convention. Go back there and just visit.
Right.
You've made some contacts. I'm imagining when you were out there. So just visit those contacts.
My brother?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, your brother. That's what your brother is out there.
So, I mean, it's... so very interesting time out there, yeah.
Cool. Which brings us to Avi Pogel. Ladies and gentlemen, Avi Pogel. Avi, you got to so many. It's the smorgasbord today with you guys. You come here with a knowledge of chefery, the culinary arts, and you are often featured on Steve Boss's Great Taste Show, which is on Solar Powered Crew FM, which is at 100. Jason, it's okay, and now also on Fairfield Media Center. That's right, Channel 9, Great Taste, with Steve Boss. Are we good? Okay. I just want to throw out there, what has that been like with you? With I mean, you were been featured on this show often,
Right.
and you seem to be, the mic goes to you as sort of like, you know, and this dish needs to be accented by such and such. With it, which has a history that goes back to Spain, and for that we'll go to Avi. And then he hands you the microphone. What is your history as far as the culinary arts? You and food.
Right. We all need food, which is one of the reasons why it's so important to me. It's, you know, we should build our bodies and minds with the best stuff we possibly can. That sounds kind of like a Snapple commercial. Other than Snapple, that's true. I think there's a quote from the Upanishads, which is, the way the best of the milk rises to the top and becomes cream, the best of food rises to the top and becomes mind and consciousness.
Did they take that from Snapple?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No. But I did read that in a Mark Kurlansky book. So the education part. I've always been interested in food, and whenever I'm doing something, I always ask, where does this come from? Why do we do this? People more or less have answers written down somewhere, and there's a really good author named Mark Kurlansky. He wrote Salt and Cod and the Basque History of the World, which are the 3 I've read, and he has a couple others out there.
Salt being the most popular, right? I think I've seen that in like every bookstore ever.
Yeah.
Is that about salt?
It's about the history of salt.
I love salt.
And you need it, otherwise you would die.
That's right. Salary comes from the word salt.
Exactly. And
We would die without salt.
we would die without salt.
How much salt are we supposed to have per day, you think?
I'm not a nutritionist.
Oh, here we go. With a disclaimer, how much salt would we need? No.
There are people. I'm sure there's sound medical science which tells people, oh, you have you have a heart condition, you should avoid sodium. But if you move your body at all and you break a little bit of a sweat, you lose. So you need salt. Taste wise, which I'm more comfortable talking about, it has an electronic orientation essentially, which allows for your taste buds to taste other flavors.
Oh.
Because the salt is sort of like electronically amplifying everything. And it works the same way for your cells. It moves vital chemicals, nutrients, molecules back and forth.
Maybe is the point that you don't need a lot of salt, that you just put a little salt on things?
Right. I mean, you need enough salt. It's pretty much with everything, you need enough.
Right.
Too little sometimes doesn't work. Too much sometimes doesn't work. So there's a balance.
What happens if you don't have enough salt?
In your diet?
Yeah.
Or
in your diet?
If you don't have enough salt in your diet, well, and it'll affect all of your organs, basically. I mean, you can become, if you lose your electrolytes, I mean, that's dehydration isn't just the water. It's the water's capacity to move those electrolytes through your cells. And so if you don't have enough water or you don't have enough electrolytes,
and potassium comes into this too, right?
Yeah, and through most of history, the salt that people have been consuming, it was refined from seawater or from salt flats or mined from the earth, and it had all the trace minerals they would need for health.
Right.
Now most people get this iodized, which is great because we need the iodine. There's a reason they put that in there, but for the most part, you get that Morton's table salt. It's in the little crystals, and they have anti-caking agents and everything. That's just pure sodium chloride with the iodine added to it. And again, iodine is important, but that's pure sodium chloride. Whereas if you get the Sol Gris or the Himalayan pink salt, then those colors are minerals that are in there that have not been removed in the Morton's refining process. And that's really the most important thing that you're getting from the salt. And sodium chloride is important, but it's the other salts that are that contain the trace elements.
Right. All right. So
Yeah.
you are knowledgeable as far as cuisine. What have you've gone abroad and studied and
Not food. I mean, I've gone abroad and studied. And actually, that's not true. I did study food, but I studied anthropology in college, and so I was really interested in how cultures relate to where they get their food. From anthropological perspective, I guess they'd call me a materialist, but I think there is something to be said for how a society functions based on how they get their food, how they grow it, how they sell it, how they process it, store it, so on.
So I imagine you'd be a big fan of local food for local people.
Yes. I absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a non sequitur, but the latest culinary project that I've been working on for the past couple of days is starting to press cider, because we have an exceptionally early year, and there are early varieties of apples, but normally the earliest of the apples are ripening now. But now we're getting these apples that normally don't ripen until September, falling off the trees because of the drought conditions. So the sugars aren't fully developed, the flavors aren't there, but it's a resource that's local, on the ground. We can consume it. And what better way to consume something than turning it into alcohol? So we started pressing cider, and in the past couple years, we've been adding sugar, and we've been adding champagne yeast, all of which bring a lot of sugar to the table and create a lot of alcohol. And it tastes pretty good, but it is missing something that you'd find in like a real artisanal cider. And I was talking to a more knowledgeable person, and you're supposed to use a wide variety of apples and don't put any sugar in it. And then what happens is that not as much alcohol gets created, and you have much deeper flavors coming out. So we just made a batch with these really tiny, I don't think they're crab apples. I think they're a seedling apple tree. So apples don't grow true from seed. It's a whole other discussion. As well as a couple different varieties of apples that we have in the yard. And then even some frozen cider we had from last year. And you drink it now, and it's sour and bitter and floral. All of those things are going to be transmogrified in that cider. And then over the next year, we're going to pull that out. Not only are we going to remember when we made it and we picked it, but also the process of us, looking at it bubble and like, that's really cool, making our own cider. And then share it with people, and just that knowledge that this came from Fairfield. This was made by people in Fairfield. Nice. And it's delicious, and it's just connects us to the whole thing.
How long does it take to ferment to get a hard cider?
The primary year. Well, that's the full process before you have an end product. The primary fermentation can be over in as little as 3 or 4 days, or as long as 3 weeks to a month. We're probably going to let this go for about a month before we rack it, we'll take most of that cider out of the jar and put it into a second one, so we leave behind as much of the sediment as possible.
And then you seal it so it doesn't ferment any further or something like
that. So then it's going to sit in that second chamber and go through a secondary fermentation for probably at least 6 or 8 months. And then we're going to bottle it. And then the bottling, another fermentation occurs, but that's essentially what you're talking about. It's going to be sealed. And then that can be consumed immediately. But then we could also, the goal is to make enough cider and enough fresh, preserved foods every season that you don't have to worry about saving it. You just eat as much as you like, and there's always going to be some left over.
So how many bottles?
Well, we've got
gallons of
5 gallons right now, and this is our first batch.
Wow!
And we already have blackberry wine going, and elderberry or
Ruberry
elderflower wine.
So how much are you charging Vivos per bottle that you're selling?
That's also illegal.
What is the end result of you have all of these? I think some of them can be given away. Some of these bottles can be given away because you're going to have so many, I guess.
Right.
But the point of this is also it's a quality of life thing. I mean, you're
absolutely.
Interacting with your food.
Absolutely.
Are there other things in your garden? I mean, a lot of people do this. A lot of people do gardening, and they'll eat their. But it sort of stops there. This is you're in the realms of not processing, but developing further. You're taking the food concept further. What other foods do you do that with? Are there any others?
Meat, actually. I like hunting. I would say I'm an avid hunter, because people who are avid hunters do a lot more hunting than I do.
Rabbit hunters, you say?
I'm a rabbit hunter and an avid hunter.
So an avid rabbit hunter?
Yes.
What other kinds of...
He's also a pleasant pheasant plucker.
Yeah.
Oh, mother pheasant plucker. You're a mother pheasant plucker too?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we're all good so far.
The most pleasant mother pheasant plucker to ever pluck a mother pheasant.
Exactly.
You heard it here first, probably not first, but on Fairfield 2.0, the last episode of the season. By the way, let me reintroduce everybody for you. On that end of the stadium is David Siegel.
Thank you for pronouncing my name correctly, too, by the way.
What,
David.
How do other people... What are the wrong pronunciations? And I'll give you some of mine.
Well, Siegel.
What?
Siegel.
Oh.
You get seagull. You got the whole. You got it right.
Okay.
First time out, it was great.
As opposed to what, like Seagal?
Seagull, David Seagull. It's not Seagull. Seagull. Anyway.
With an emphasis on the second.
Yeah, just like a seagull at the beach,
Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you. I get Ragogna. I get, what do I get? Ragogna was another one. And then my favorite, of course, is when they go, okay, Michael I never know what to do after that. Of course, at the comic convention, we had a Mike Ragogna.
Oh, yeah.
And we saw him, by the way. This is like part 2 of the Comic-Con. Jason's laughing. Jason, come on in. Let's talk about comics. No? All right.
Isn't it Vic?
Vic, rather.
Vic Mignogna.
Vic Mignogna.
Vic Mignogna.
Vic Mignogna, who's...
Mike, and what was the other guy?
Mike Ragogna.
But he met me, and he goes, I think I gave him like a CD. I you have my CDs like Halloween candy. So I gave him a CD just sort of like as a hello, and he picks it up and he goes, oh, Mike Ragogna, nice to meet you. He knew exactly how to pronounce it. It was great. We were in the middle of it, and I'm sorry I interrupted. I was introducing everybody. I was in the middle of introducing everybody, and we also have Avi Pogel, who's with us, and Galen Hawthorne. We're going to get to you, I promise, I swear. Avi, we have one more. I have one more important question for you, which is we're talking about locally grown food, etc., and that plays into. Well, we don't like to discuss politics on this show, but it does have something to do with community-mindedness and participating in your community, at least as far as your backyard, at least as far as Can you take us into that conversation? Steer us into what do you? You're feeling very strongly lately about people voting.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel very strongly that people should vote, and then there's a lot of people who are politically active in this community. I mean, Fairfield, is a small slice of America. I think the better parts of America for most of the time, but we're also in the midst of some of the bad parts of America in terms of the way we treat the soil and the economics that are involved with that. But I think it's important to vote because it's our civic duty, and to go back a step, growing my own food, processing food, being, I would say I'm more libertarian. I think that we should be able to respectfully live without people telling us what to do, although I do recognize that laws are very important. And so I understand where people come from when they don't want to vote. They don't see this political process working for them. But I just want to say that not voting is not a political statement of defiance.
Right.
It's voluntarily silencing your voice.
That's right.
And it allows for a radical minority to set the political dialogue. And therefore it just spirals out of control. Our interests are being represented less and less and less. And therefore it's even more, I don't want to vote because there's nothing in it for me.
The choices they're both the same. That's the one I hate the most. They're both the same. They're both cut from the same cloth. It's like, no, they're not cut from the same cloth. Exactly. Look at what they're saying and look what they're doing.
Absolutely. And there is something to be said for both parties are controlled, or not necessarily controlled, but strongly influenced by corporate interests. And it doesn't seem like there's a lot that we can do about that, but that's not true. The giant corporations that are making billions of dollars off of us as consumers and the resources of the environment require us to continue to behave the way we are. If we become enlightened consumers and we write letters to corporations, we research the products that we want to buy and the companies we want to invest in, and then we vote with candidates who support those things, we can change the whole big picture.
Activism from our kitchen table to the voting booth.
Exactly.
What do you think as far as, the big argument also is, like I said before, everybody's saying like they're both exactly the same, adding to the apathy, adding to the misinformation and disinformation. What do you think about the discussion? Because we're not mentioning any politicians here today on this show. We're trying to steer clear of that. Please, dear God, let's stay clear of that. But how do you feel about the concept of, well, there's no third party, like let's say the presidential elections. And we're talking about elections overall. We're not just talking about the presidential election, which is the snazziest. So that's the one that gets us to the voting booths. But on the other hand, when you have local elections, et cetera, to get those numbers up, it seems like it's usually a Democratic, not Democrat, a Democratic choice or a Republican choice. And you're a libertarian, so you might actually have a strong opinion about this.
Yeah.
Doesn't it seem that doing just two parties has kind of limited our ability to do what you said, which is to not be sort of like at the mercy of having like a small representation of the culture.
One of the main reason we have two parties was not a gentleman's agreement to only have two parties that can be controlled either side. We have a winner takes all system. So it means that if you get the majority of the votes, you win. It's not like a parliamentary system where you get representation based on the proportion of the votes that you got, where they have many, many more parties. We don't want an Italian system. That's kind of always used as the example of chaos. Well, there you.
I'm kidding. I don't know. I don't care. I'm an American.
So basically, having a third party is not practical based on the way that our system has been developed.
Right.
However, the ideas contained in third parties are very important, and it's important to support third parties and to have viable third parties because they do affect the political dialogue. There becomes compromise between the candidates or the platforms of the two major parties because there's a vast section of the population that is leaning towards the views of someone else. Because of the winner-takes-all system, it's very, very unlikely that there will be sweeping change and then a third party will come and take over. But the more we support items that are in the platforms of third parties, the more those items become incorporated into the mainstream politics. Beautiful. And you'll have incremental change over time.
Beautiful. On the third and fourth and fifth parties, I mean, there are ideas in everybody's discussion which seem to, which would be valid ideas had it not been relegated to a person who is, quote, unelectable, let's say.
Yeah. And the media doesn't do this process favors all of the time when they choose to not report about certain things. Then, if they reported on absolutely everything, then we wouldn't really have a filter. Possibly the media in America these days has a little bit too fine of a filter, and we should be allowing more ideas to come through. Yeah,
but I think that's also that we've inherited that. That has been progressively happening over the years because, I mean, quite frankly, we have a media that's built on making profit. So what's going to make profit? The cat getting caught in the tree and being rescued by a fireman is not going to be getting. It's not going to be capturing your dime, as Paul Simon would say.
Well, but in many ways, it is though. It's just that it's not. It's a little bit more.
But they want the dollar. They don't want the dime.
Right. Well, they want.
The dollar goes to this candidate said this ridiculous thing today, or this candidate whatever. And that's, I think, where. It's the gotcha thing. Look at the reality shows. The reality shows are all built on. I'm sorry to say it like this, and I know I'm going against the tide here because they're fun to watch. Trust me, I love watching these things. But the reality shows, for the most part, really make their biggest bang off of embarrassing people and a mean-spiritedness. And I'm like watching that. I'm going. So is this what we're educating? This is what the population is right now. And no, it's not. But that seems to be. It plays to almost the lowest in us. I would like to know about that cat in the tree and the fireman because the fireman probably has a pretty interesting story, and maybe the cat belongs to somebody who was a friend of a friend or something. You're never going to know those things. You, sir, let's get to Galen Hawthorne. Galen, you've been listening to all of this, and someday I'm sure that you're going to be a fine politician in Fairfield, perhaps on city council even or something maybe.
I'm not certain about any of that, but
sorry. But I wanted to ask you, what is when you hear this kind of a discussion and you're voting, how do you judge? Without mentioning names, how do you judge who you vote for when you go into a booth? What qualities are you looking for? What kind of stories and do you do research, for instance?
Well, it's very much like Avi said. Just if they show support for the topics that I'm really most interested in, then I really appreciate that. But also on another level, I'm very interested in psychology, and so I spend a lot of time paying attention to the way that the candidates are, who they are and the way that they act around people. Not only because I want to see who the fake one is, but also because I want to,
Good work.
I want to know how they're going to be in the office, and I want to know, how they're, are they going to put their feet up on the desk, or are they going to be, nose to the grindstone, the constant, all the time? Are they going to, when somebody says, Mr. President, there's people all across the country lobbying for this or that or the other thing, is he going to say, let them lobby a little bit longer? Or is he really going to sit there and be like, well, why are they lobbying about this? Is there a step further that I could go to really key into this problem and figure it out and things like that? So I like to, more than listening to the smear campaigns that they lead against other people, I like to know them.
Smear campaigns. Let's pick up on this. The smear campaign logic, unfortunately, works. Because everybody's more interested. It's the going to the what's going to fascinate you more, the cat in the tree, or somebody calling somebody else, or whatever. So the smear campaigns, which are mostly lies, and I have a feeling, right? I have a feeling most people know this. This is kind of common sense. If you're saying or not lies, but exaggerations. It's probably a kernel of truth somewhere in there, and then a whole campaign is based on, do you know what that person did? Oh, this guy while he was in office did. Then they have the voiceovers that are like all sinister and all that, want to scare you. That type of behavior, that type of politicking, I think comes out of an infotainment culture now. I think that's what, because we want to be entertained. We like we like horror movies. So we like sci-fi. We like things that'll jump out. We like dynamics. We like huge things. So do you ever in your lifetime, because I'm going to be long gone by the time you get up there, but in your lifetime, do you think you're ever going to see a turn on that, or a turn of that? Like people are just going to say, enough with the lies, enough with your awful commercials. Would you please just give me some facts so I can make up my mind? Is that ever going to happen? Or are we just going to be sheep? Are we just going to be dumb for the rest of eternity? What?
Unfortunately, I'm not confident that it will change too much in the coming future. I would relish the day that people got up onto the political podium and talked about themselves rather than talked about the other person, that they're fighting against. It's always everyone, they're all candidates, but they're all against each other, which I don't think that should be the way that we even think about it. I think it should be that they're all candidates for office, and that I think it should be maybe not necessarily a cooperative thing, but I don't think it should be as aggressive as it is. And I think there are definitely there are websites and groups and people who are really trying to get the parlance and things like that to move away from negativity. There's a website, I don't know if I should promote it or whatnot, but it's called, I believe it's called flakcheck.org. And the idea there is that they post up these ads that are, like smear campaigns or whatever, and they just analyze them and they go, well, this part isn't true. Well, this part is sort of true, but there's this twist to it and things like that. And one of their big things is that they'll do these videos comparing, this is the stupid thing that this, candidate X did. This is the stupid thing that candidate Y did. But they always make sure that there's equal amounts of everything and that they're, showing it correctly.
This is wonderful. Go ahead, Tim.
Well, it just triggers this. I had an idea, I don't know, a few months ago, because in response to the sort of sword rattling and the rhetoric that comes out of different countries, these are the bad guys and these are and there's not a lot of, it was sort of a frustration where it felt like there's not a lot of accountability or acknowledgement that, every country has got, blood on their hands, pollutes the environment, racist, and so my thought was to have like a website that relating to like the 12 steps where you do like a moral inventory of the individual, it would be like a moral inventory of each country. So the U.S. like killed Indians, took their land, did nuclear
but every country has their own.
And then
stuff.
Japan did torture this. So then Iraq does their thing and Iran does their. How many babies did you kill this year? Really, every country kills babies. So, but they don't.
Good recipes.
Yeah, exactly. And Avi can cook them if they're locally killed.
Here we go. This is why we don't talk politics on this show.
But it's like we want to say, oh, you killed to the Iraqis. Oh, you killed the Kurds, and oh, you did this. Well, we killed the Indians same way.
All right.
So just list and you have these markers. How many babies did you kill? How many tons of carbon did you? Because we did. The finger pointing is it's like why are we finger pointing? It's like. The thing that you should do is how do we get right? Because the thing is, the things that we do to others, all the subversive economic activity overseas and flooding the market with our stuff, blah blah blah. We lie about things like that, then we end up lying to ourselves. The country lies to itself, and then we have banking scandals. We rip ourselves off the same way we've gotten away with ripping other people off. We take advantage of ourselves. We spy, spy on ourselves.
All right, so that's really. Thankfully, we got off the baby killing. But
did I say baby killing?
Yeah, one more time.
Sorry,
I'm sorry, Fairfield.
Tag that on YouTube.
But why make?
David,
And it's like, oh my God, we don't do that. They do that.
David,
they're the bad ones.
David,
we would never do. Well, but you did it over here. Oh, but that was not that. That's collateral damage.
I'm glad you're here tonight.
Is the show becoming clever?
That's what we're going to rename the show.
He's our psychologist. He's going to have a recession after this.
David Siegel will not be appearing at the end of the show due to negative comments before the show was even published from the people in the other room and Mike's publicist.
David, I have a question relative to every country. As you mentioned, every country has its flaws. On the other hand, you also have people who are, especially a lot of people who might be watching this show right now, who are going to have exactly the opposite viewpoint of what you said.
You should put all the stuff. For the U.S. Home and democracy, incredible technological advancement in medicine, generous. How much are they giving to the? But put it because it's like there's so much propaganda of how great everything is and. We're doing this because of freedom, and but put it in, put all the countries up there so we can see.
Again, all of this stuff that's really great conjecture. I want to come back to, and I'm not dismissing it. I think you're right on as far as David. I think you make some very valid points there. But there are also, I met somebody yesterday for the first time. It was my first conversation with him, and what do we talk about? Religion, of all things. And it's like, oh my gosh, okay, here we go. So it was because I felt a certain way about something. It had slipped out normal in conversation. I wasn't censoring what I was saying, and I wasn't saying anything offensive, I thought. But this person jumped in and basically said, we're doing religion and politics. I love it. It's the things you're not supposed to talk about. But with religion, I said something apparently that was supportive of a certain group which apparently is going to hell. If because it's not, if you're not a believer, I guess the term was believer. Right. And I was brought up Catholic. And I was brought up with "Thou shalt not kill." I was brought up with a Christian foundation, and I thought I was okay, but apparently I'm not okay, and I'm going to hell. Right. But
I'm sorry to hear that.
I know. I wanted to go to heaven. I really did.
I'm sorry.
But the point. But in the discussion, what I found interesting, and I think might be at the root of all of this. And you, Fairfield, you just the most controversial episode, the 30th episode of the end of season 1. It might be the end of the series. Great. But my feeling.
Galen brought it up.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Galen.
Thanks, Galen.
Yeah. I want to throw out there that this guy would not. I threw out the word compromise. I said we have a. If everybody was think about compromising, because we all have to live together. Everybody has different ideas. And you have to compromise. He said, "Oh no, that's a bad thing too, because if you compromise, then you are then there's miseducation going on about what we should believe."
Well, that's what makes it fun for people like that, is that they've short circuited the need for logic.
Well, I liked him a lot, so I'm not going to trash him in any way. I really liked him. He just had this belief system.
No, I mean it's a very comforting belief system logic is a hassle because you have to consider a lot of stuff. If you can just say this is the way it is, period. There's no more thinking, and it's good for you. I mean, it's good for me, maybe not so good for you, but it's really, I am going to the best place in the world, and there's no more discussion about that. That's a very comforting belief. Why would you want to mess with it once you've installed it? You know, it's
well, that's true. It's a comforting thing, and
it has some bugs.
it has some bugs.
It's like anything that has a couple bugs.
It's prone to problems, but unless you're experiencing direct problems with that, I think the thing is, there's a balance. Logical thinking has its place, you know, and science and technology is incredible, except for the fact that now we could destroy the entire planet with logical thinking that created the hydrogen bomb. Okay. So there's one side, and it goes to the extreme, it's no good.
Right.
And then you take, you know, religious fundamentalism to the extreme, and you get people that are willing to die and take other people with them for their beliefs. So neither one of them is proper in its own right. You know, you have to have a balance between...
Like compromise.
Yeah, exactly.
Like compromise.
Compromise.
Which is rather... I should never bring up the word compromise, apparently. Galen,
got us in a compromising situation.
I take back that whole thing. It'll be edited out. If you missed it, it's about the...
Oh, don't you even...
It's about a specific group of people that believe...
Okay.
And they live in... Okay.
So,
edit that out.
Okay. So, Galen, we got to get back to Galen.
I know.
You ate into Galen's time. How dare you, sir?
No.
It's
fine.
With things we're not even going to use.
I know.
Galen, I mentioned the... No, go ahead.
Galen Hawthorne. I want to put the third after I say that. Galen Hawthorne the third.
The third.
Galen,
someday.
Yeah, Galen, you have so many things that you've been working on lately. As far as you've studied psychology. You're into psychology, or you're getting into this, right?
I've dabbled psychology.
Okay, you dabbled psychology, journalism. Okay, journalism for sure.
English.
English.
Creative writing.
Creative writing. And the M word.
And the M word. Music.
Not your M word. Music.
I just caught that. I was like, he does music? What are you talking about?
The other M word. But you are very... these are things I've learned about you that are like pretty wild as far as music. I never knew that about you. You're a bass player.
I'm a bass player. Yeah.
You're a singer.
Singer.
You are performing. You performed really well that night. Best of Broadway, I believe. It was a really great show. It hasn't aired. He hasn't played it yet, but he will be. It's like this.
Yes, I will have had performed very admirably.
It was wonderful. Let me tell you. Avi, you wished you had performed, but you just weren't around when they were auditioning people.
Exactly.
Whatever. But what are your thoughts as far as your future? You have so many things that are on your plate.
I know. What
are you going to do with your life?
Kind of amazing right now. I don't know. I've just come back from the University of Iowa, and I'm in Fairfield, and it feels like all these things are just falling into my lap, and that's a wonderful feeling. That's always amazing. And so right now I'm in town for at least another year while I'm applying for grad schools and things like that. And recently I've been transcribing for you. I've been doing my radio show at KRUU-LP 100.1 FM, the voice of Fairfield, Iowa.
And beyond?
And beyond.
And is it solar powered?
It is.
Oh my gosh.
And I've also been working at the Two Roads Educational Art Theater, which is in the old Cafe Paradiso in Broadway building.
And what do they do?
They do, we do productions for little kids.
Little kids?
Yeah, like recently, our current production that we're doing is Go Dog Go. It's a musical version of the P.D. Eastman book. So, you kind of understand the age range there. And then on top of that, they also do, we do like camps for...
Workshops.
Yeah,
camps.
theater workshop camp things for children. We've got ages 3 to 10 in the current one. It actually just ended. And what they did, we play theater games with them, and then we we do snack time, and then we make
and nap time.
No nap time. No naps. It's all energy. We do a play. We write a play, and they craft all the costuming and set pieces and things like that.
Put that sippy cup down. Get to work.
Exactly. Grab the hammer.
Where's that chainsaw? And this is, of course, directed by Dr. Derek, my doctor.
Dr. Derek Anderson. Mm-hmm. And actually the director who we've had for Go Dog Go is Tim Seib, I believe his last name is pronounced. He actually is a director at theater in Princeton, Illinois, that is really nice. They did Cabaret, and we went and saw it.
Oh, nice.
And somehow he and Derek got together, and
What was your first musical that you were in?
The first ever musical that I was in. Well,
what were the first musical you were in?
Tough.
There was a certain production company that came to town, and you were part of a major production.
Certain production company. I was in Peter Pan.
Peter Pan, you say?
Yeah, at the. I don't even remember what that theater was called anymore now. It was down by Flamingo Lanes.
And that was an amazing thing because they had the set, right? Didn't they have the set from Peter Pan there?
We might have. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was the original set.
Yeah, I was 4 at the time. I played Michael. I was in my little footy pajamas the entire
The original
time.
set from the original.
Oh no, we're talking about. Then I'm mixing this up.
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
talking about the Randy West
You're
production.
thinking of the. Well, this was also a Randy West production. This
okay.
This was one of his first in town, I believe. But then, flash forward to 2009, I think, and I was John in Peter Pan at the Civic Center, at the Sondheim Center, and then we had the original sets.
That was the original set.
And we had a fly system. I got to fly. That was fantastic. It was lots of fun.
It makes you want to do that again.
Absolutely.
Was it a harness? Was it painful?
Yeah, it was a harness. It was, I wouldn't say it was painful so much, but it was certainly irritating. Because, it was this sort of like Dutch seat, full on harness. Had two people lifting me up so I go shooting to the ceiling and back.
Yeah, never doing that. Okay, so what did you? And I know you wanted to go to Comic-Con, and yet you couldn't this year.
Yes, I
just couldn't. But what you have an interest in things like? I wanted to have you on the last show because we were talking about comics and stuff too. Okay. But just real quick, what's your taste when it comes to comic books and stuff?
All right. Well, right now I've since I've moved back from Iowa City, I had to cancel my poll list that I had at Daydreams. But before I had the current run of Ultimate Spider-Man, which is really fascinating.
Interesting.
Because they killed Peter Parker in the Ultimate Universe. And the thing about the Ultimate Universe is that they're really trying this time, and everybody who dies is supposed to stay dead. And so it's just unbelievable that they've killed this, iconic, just Peter Parker who's been around for 50 years now, and they've replaced him with this young boy named Miles Morales, who is African American and Latino, and I think 11 years old, going to boarding school, or no, he must be 13. I think he's 13. But anyway, he's just very young, and he's the new Spider-Man, and it's a really bold move by Marvel, and I really like it. And then also, I kind of, I get Supergirl from DC just because it's kind of a strange thing.
See, I needed you on the show. I needed someone to have my back.
Well, what I'm really fascinated with is Image Comics, which is sort of, they're kind of the third label that's trying to come up. It was a bunch of people who back in the 90s left Marvel and DC and tried to start up their own label, and they ended up with Image Comics, and it's just anything that any artist wants to make and wants to write. And so they have this one now called Saga, and it's just beautifully painted.
Nice.
And the story is amazing. It's warring planets and two lovers from the different planets who have a baby, and they have to run away from bounty hunters who want their whole family dead and things like that.
Sounds like Dune a little.
Yeah, it's actually, it seems to be very heavily inspired by Dune. It's really, really fascinating and lots of fun.
The kid will of course grow up to be the savior of the universe.
Oh yes, I'm sure.
We have to kind of wrap things up. Just when I was getting. And by the way, my comment on the Ultimate Spider-Man, they lost me when they did that. When they killed off.
They
Peter.
lost you, really?
Yeah, I was like, well, that Ultimate. Here's the reason why. Maybe you can see the logic here. When they rebooted J. Michael Straczynski's Spider-Man, the normal Spider-Man. You guys, I don't know if you're related to this at all, but or anybody in Fairfield. But when they rebooted Spider-Man, they rebooted it in a way that sucked. They took away the Mary Jane. They took away all the history that I thought was kind of cool to that point. It wasn't it wasn't laden down with the marriage. It had interesting things going on.
Which
so
Spider-Man?
The real universe Spider-Man. So they rebooted it so that he wasn't, they made a deal, so Mary Jane and Aunt May and blah, I won't bore you with that. Yeah. But they rebooted it so that all that history was jettisoned. And I really thought that sucked, considering I had invested a lot of my emotion. So what happened was I was using Ultimate Spider-Man as my way to keep in touch with, keep intact, like Peter Parker. That made sense to me. I really liked, what's his name, Bendis. I really liked that run.
Michael Bendis, yeah.
I really liked that run. So what happens when you get to the end of that when now that he's dead, it's like, great, I have no Peter Parker I can relate to. I'm in the music business based on having my first song recorded on a Spider-Man album, so it's like I'm very close. And Spider-Man was one of my books when I was growing up, so they've destroyed my universe.
Oh, well, what I like about it is that it's not that violent of a reboot. It's literally just, hey, we're gonna look over here. And I'm told that there's going to be a lot of just all of Peter Parker's supporting cast from Ultimate Spider-Man are going to be interacting very heavily with
including
Miles.
Peter's ghost?
Well, actually, they just did another groundbreaking event where Peter Parker from the main universe, 616, gets sent into the Ultimate Universe, and he meets Miles. It's a 4-part miniseries.
Yeah, new the Ultimate Universe is coming.
They're on issue 3 right now, and well, I'm told that he gets sent back, and it doesn't affect.
He better not get sent back, is all I have to say, or there'll be letters from me. I'll tell you.
Well, if he doesn't get sent back, then he's not going to be in 616 anymore, and then you're not going to.
There's that. Okay, fine. All right, we have to wrap the show up. You could tell this was a very funny thing. Like when guys are on a show and we're talking about Spider-Man and stuff. You guys may not be buying comic books, but everybody was like, everybody was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I want to thank,
Except for me.
No, except for you, young man. No, David Siegel, musician, artist extraordinary. You get to see him a lot, probably in the next couple of months, as far as tributes and you performing all over the place. Good luck with that. That's going to be great. And please let me, I would love to sing one of your songs on the show. Seriously. Avi Pogel, who gave us an education in why we should be involved in voting, politics.
But not quite, grow your own food, process your own food, and vote.
There you go.
There.
And Galen, who I think should be a co-host at this point. We'll just talk about Spider-Man. But I really appreciate it, Galen Hawthorne. I really appreciate. Actually, then we need to get you back because I want to do a show based on writing and journalism and etc. We'll do a highbrow show, and not that this wasn't highbrow, a higher brow show, whatever. But I really appreciate everybody's time, and we're going to hear from David Siegel. So do not go away, Fairfield, and remember, Fairfield 2.0 is introducing Fairfield to Fairfield and the world. So come on back for season 2, but with a caveat here, after David's performance, hang in there because I have a few choice words for you, Fairfield, filled with love. So please hang out after the performance, okay? Take care. And thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Fairfield. This is David Siegel. This is part of the Mike Ragogna show. I want to thank Mike for having me on. I'm going to do a few of my own songs here and maybe tell you a little bit about how I wrote them. First one I'm going to do is called Will of Heaven, and this is a song I wrote this year, and it was inspired by my collaboration with Josie Overmeyer. She's a great local singer-songwriter, and I don't even know, I'm trying to remember how this came about. I've got I keep these little lyric folders. Here's the lyric folder. And I just took this from snippets of other writing that I had done and just kind of just kind of grabbed little pieces and put them together and had some great chords, and Josie was there, and it just all came together very, very quickly. This is one of those songs. And it's in an alternate tuning. This is an Irish tuning, Dadgad tuning. And it sort of lent itself to this song. And she actually sang and played along with it. So you're going to be missing her part, but I think you get the idea. I want you to destroy the world. Can you tell me why? I can hear you telling me his lies. Can you tell me why? Spring has come and I'm free of you. It hurt like hell, but I'm free. You're not the one, I'm moving on. We've come and gone and I'm free. cards you sent me from old El Paso are littered across my floor. Yellow desert flowers and sweet memories, faded with pressures from dreams. You almost found me, but I guess it's neglect, and I always knew I would go. I wished for you, I'll admit that I did, but something's always telling me to run. Why, oh why did you listen to me when I told you I was a liar? Just a little boy wanting his toy, a blanket he can't let go of. The will of heaven is strange and beautiful, giving and giving and giving, showering us with goodness and luck, love and mercies and time. So this next song is called Rear Window, and this was based on a date with somebody in town who's now married and with a baby, which is kind of funny. And there's a line about Grace Kelly. I'd just seen the movie Rear Window, and there's this beautiful dinner scene. They're having dinner, and they're all in formal dress. You know, they're suit and tie, and she's wearing a beautiful dress, Grace Kelly, and I just thought that was great, you know, and I just imagined that, you know, they probably, that was a time period when they didn't think, hey, things will change, and now, you know, years later, nobody dresses for dinner anymore. So, or I'm sure some people do, but not in Fairfield. Anyway, so this is Rear Window. Saying I love you every day and falling for you every day, swaying with you, laughing with you. I want you, I want you. I just wanna be on the road and stop the world. Oh my, what you can't find with a good backbeat and a little bit of time. I've got a lover, a sister, a twin. It'll be our little secret. Hannah hands and blue eyes when I took her home. She wore my coat. Angel, angel, burning bright. Who will take you home tonight? Is it the king of rock and roll, whose eyes are burning in your soul? Thought it would last forever, but it only lasted a decade or two. Nobody dresses for dinner anymore like they used to in Rear Window. There's always a doorway, but sometimes it's so hard to find. Look at me, sweetheart, tell me you haven't changed your mind. Okay, this next song, it's called Amanda the Searcher. This was, had a really nice experience in New York City a few years ago. This guy, Ethan something, was a photographer that I happened to see at giving a presentation at the Apple Store in Greenwich Village. And he was the photographer for the Stones and for the covers of the Beatles' Let It Be. And he took some iconic pictures of Keith Richards and all these guys. And The Who, he took Who's Next. Anyway, great guy, and very interesting to see his work and hear about hanging out with the Beatles and stuff. And then afterwards there was a party. Everybody got to go back to his studio. And I met a girl there named Amanda, and we had a little chat. And then I actually had a folder. And here's the lyric that I scrawled that night. You can see this is how this song came about. And it was actually a folder that I had. I don't know why I had a folder with me. Maybe I was writing stuff. But I had this folder, and I've torn it up so I could read the lyrics. But, you know, I started writing, and this is another one that just came very quickly. And here's the song that. And part of this, too, this thing about statue from Aegea, it's actually, I guess it's AG, but there were guys at the restaurant where I ate talking about Greek, this and that, and you know, really interesting conversation that I overheard. So that sort of made it into the song too. I guess New York City is the place where they, you know, you can just hear a lot of interesting things there. So Amanda, the searcher, she's nearly fully open like a statue from AG, waiting for the fates. Now she's leaving now, and I barely felt her go. Maybe I'll feel her when she's gone. She's in a distant rhythm. She's saying things for others, and she's saying, don't you worry, and she's saying, let it go. She's saying, I love you, and she's saying, I don't know. Amanda the wanderer, baby, when are you coming home? She says, I think I just lost my way. I'm sure I'll be home soon. Sure I'll see you soon. Wouldn't they all like a bit of that magic? Step into the night. Step into the night. Wouldn't they all like a bit of that, honey? Step into the light. Step into the light. Amanda, Amanda, wrap yourself around me like a blanket made of wool. Let yourself be full. You are like a thread that pulls on my heart. Is it okay to say I love you? Is it okay to say I love you? they all like a bit of that magic. Step into the light. Step into the light. When they all like a bit of that honey. Step into the night. Step into the night. I'm going to do one more song. This is called Wreck. You just want to wreck, and I wrote this when I was going to school. And I wasn't living in my parents' basement, but I was living in the basement of a friend of my parents. Anyway, and this was written quite a while ago, maybe 10 years or more than 10 years ago. It's just kind of scary to contemplate, but here's the song. It's called what I just said. Just a touch of desperation, living in your parents' basement, or hanging out at the mall, looking at the girls you just wanna wreck. I can see it in your eyes, you just wanna wreck. Baby, I know you just wanna wreck. Get the hell out of this town, you just wanna wreck. Running when you hit the ground. You know I'm trouble even though I slow down. Touch my face and calm me down. When it's day after day all through your life, a little accident would sure feel nice. You just wanna wreck. I can see it in your eyes, you just wanna wreck. Baby, I know you just wanna wreck. Get the hell out of this town, you just wanna wreck. Running when you hit the ground. Everything just disappears. Baby, I'm so happy to find you here. Yeah, everything just slips away, but you can't stay with me and watch TV. You just wanna wreck. I can see it in your eyes, you just wanna wreck. Baby, I know you just wanna wreck. Get the hell out of this town, you just wanna wreck. Running when you hit the ground. Running when you hit the ground. Running when you hit the ground.
Hello, Fairfield, and thank you very, very much for an amazing first season. We had 30 episodes, this being the 30th episode of Fairfield 2.0, the show which is about Fairfield, introducing Fairfield to Fairfield and the world, because it's up on YouTube. I think it would be poor form to go out without thanking certain people. I'd like to especially thank Dick DeAngelis, who sort of is the grand poobah when it comes to the Fairfield Media Center, which is where we've been recording virtually all of these episodes, I think with the exception of Bluefish interviews. And I feel like I really want to be incredibly thankful to Jason Strong, because Jason he's been a trooper. He has come through with everything we've needed for this show. Has given up valuable, family time even to make sure that the show is right. And I do appreciate you, sir. And you have been a blast. You've been a lot of fun, and couldn't do the show without you. And all of you, all the musicians, all of the Fairfieldians, business owners, interesting artisans, who've come on this show and who've lent your talents and your wonderful personalities and words of wisdom in some cases. I really do appreciate your time, and I appreciate your love of Fairfield, and that's something that I enjoyed sharing with you. So season 2 is going to feature a lot of great talent. Hang in there. It's going to start up real soon, and hopefully we'll be keeping up the level of integrity that we've tried to this first year. Not counting, of course, the arm wrestling, but definitely counting the belly dancing. We had a lot of fun, great episodes. Again, I want to thank everybody who was on the show. I want to thank Fairfield for watching it, and we need you here. Even for your own show, possibly, if you want to do that. But I'd love to have you on my show because, again, this show is Fairfield 2.0, and it's about Fairfield, introducing Fairfield to Fairfield and the world. Thank you for hanging in there and watching the show. Take care.